So I have two stories in my mind that I want to open up tonight's episode with. I'm not going to let the audience choose because this is not a live recording. I'm going to let you choose, Aaron.
Nice.
So I have a story that has to do with the letter C, and I have a story that has to do with the letter G. So which one are you gonna want me to open with?
It's a tough choice. Tough choice. Both very good letters. Let's go with G. Let's see what's behind your letter
Okay.
G.
So G stands for Google. And so right before we got on the air here,
Okay.
I opened up a tab on my browser, and my default page is Google. So I went to Google, and I don't know if you saw Google today. At the very bottom, there's a little link, and there's a link that says, "Go behind the scenes to see how search works."
Okay.
And
Interesting.
So, I don't. Did you see this or?
No.
Yeah, so I clicked on it, and it is a YouTube video that is almost an hour long. It's a 58-minute, like basically what I can tell, a documentary about Google. It's a 58-minute documentary that Google produced about themselves. The description is like any typical, like they call it trillions of questions, no easy answers, a home brackets movie about how search works. So the description is like any typical home movie. This one started in a dusty basement with boxes of old footage, some conversations in 2019, a field trip to the data center, and an unexpected stop at a hardware store later. It came together into a story, our story. So it's interesting. I watched like 30 seconds of it so far. Haven't gotten into at all what it's about yet. They're kind of laying some teaser groundwork there in the first like 30 seconds. So, but yeah, it seems very interesting. I mean, I'm not a cynical person, so I don't look on the advertising, publishing, marketing side of this.
Right.
I just look at this as this could be a very interesting 58.
Well, I mean,
minute.
it's obviously it's obviously not unbiased, but that doesn't mean it isn't a good watch, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So 58-minute movie about how Google works and how search works. I'm kind of intrigued. I think this could be a really good movie.
all right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll save the C story till next. Well, maybe not next week because next week is a special episode. We'll talk about that later. All right. Welcome everybody to the ETC podcast, your one-stop pod for entertainment, technology, and cars. My name is Casey Lee, and sitting across the city from me, as always, is
Aaron Senenkar.
This is episode 61 on this wonderful Thursday, March 18th, 2021. And we start today off with a bit of sad news, actually. Did you hear about Sabine Schmitz?
No.
So do you remember who Sabine Schmitz is?
She's the Nürburgring like race car driver, right?
Exactly.
She was on Top Gear. Yeah.
Exactly. So I only knew about her through Top Gear. I'm sure racing fans know her from the Nürburgring. I found out, she was the only woman to win the 24-hour Nürburgring race.
Yeah.
And I believe she hosted like the German version of Top Gear, I think.
Oh, that's right.
I think, yeah. So for those who don't know, again, like, Car News, Top Gear, Grand Tour, obviously a huge show, a show that Aaron actually introduced me to. And she was kind of a guest star on Top Gear every now and then. So she would kind of come by, kind of participate in challenges. Again, I think she went on to host the Top Gear German one. I'm sure a big star in the racing world. I'm not myself huge into racing, but you are like I'm sure you know about her. But sadly, I read yesterday that she actually died of cancer.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So very, very sad, like 51 years old. She'd been battling cancer. I'm not sure how long, but definitely, she fought the battle, and her husband posted a tweet, saying that she fought this brave fight with cancer, and unfortunately she died at the age of 51. So I was kind of saddened to hear that, just because I just didn't know. I didn't know at all, right? And she seemed like such a cool person and really, fun loving, and you kind of have to be if you're going to be on Top Gear, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously sad for any reason, but just kind of unexpected because, one of these people that you kind of like, see on TV, oh, that person was cool, and you're not like the biggest fan, you're not necessarily following them all the time, and the next thing you read is that they've passed away.
Yeah.
So
I did not hear that, and obviously, I'm sure it's not a like sudden thing, right? So I'm kind of surprised I hadn't heard anything before about it, but
I can't even remember where I read it actually. It was Car and Driver. Carandriver.com is where I read it. Yeah. And then, I saw. Then I guess a lot of the other news outlets started getting it and started talking about it. So, definitely rest in peace, Sabine. Very cool, and obviously, I'm sure a huge gift to the racing world. Even though I'm not the biggest fan, but of racing, I'm sure a big gift to the racing world that we lost. So, moving on to something that I want to mention that is very timely because we are doing this season 7 of the podcast, and both season 6 and season 7 was their goal was to kind of get out the episodes on time, and actually, to be honest, every season of the ETC podcast was generally on time. It's just that brief hiatus when we went to when the band broke up and we started doing our separate projects, that I dabbled in podcasts that wouldn't come out for months. So to be fair, we've always kind of been timely, but we don't always talk about timely stuff. We don't always talk about the latest and greatest stuff. And a lot of times we don't even come into the news article. Like,
yeah, I mean, I feel like we do, but I mean, depending on how you're defining talk about it, because it's usually things that have happened, in the moment. But usually we just don't know much about it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We say the words. But I've had this actually on my list for a couple of weeks, and I haven't gotten to it.
So not timely. This is the opposite.
No. But here's the thing though. The thing that I'm about to talk about comes out March 19th.
Okay, yeah.
So kind of timely. So a very interesting Apple TV Plus announcement. It's a new series coming out tomorrow. Have you heard about this series called Calls?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so it's a super intriguing trailer. So the trailer kind of opens up and there's like a phone, and you're kind of seeing a conversation, kind of seeing like fancy animated versions of like sound waves. And you find out at the end of the trailer that the whole series is just audio, basically.
Oh wow,
that's cool. So I'm pretty sure it's a visual, like it's video. It's a TV show, but it's basically 12 phone calls that you watch, and kind of there's some connection between the phone calls. It's a lot of big stars. It's a lot of big kind of Hollywood stars in it.
Yeah.
If you ask me to name any of those, I can't remember. But yeah, Calls comes out March 19th tomorrow on Apple TV Plus. So for those of you like myself who just finally activated their 1 free year of Apple TV Plus, you got a new show to watch. So yes, Calls coming out March 19th. 2021.
Yeah. Lots of good content. I mean, I think this is the same thing with any of these services, right? Like it takes a while for them to really get going with the content, but it seems like there's a lot of good content coming up on Apple TV Plus. They got some big series. Like I don't know if you've heard of the Foundation series.
Yes. When does that come out?
I don't know the date because that's we don't do that research. But it is rumored to be quite a like even now a lot of episodes committed to, something like 50 plus episodes or something.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, really long. Yeah, really huge amount of episodes committed to. You was it like you read the books or whatever or?
Yeah, I think I've read most of them. So to be fair, like there's a lot of source material. So there's more than enough for them to do a long run.
Is it one author or?
Yeah, one author. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things a lot of people didn't think they could make into like a visual medium, and so I think it's pretty exciting to see what they do with that. But
is it because like what would hinder it from being like put into a visual medium? Is it just so fantastical, or is it like
there's a lot of no, it's less about them being able to, like it's not like there's anything in it that's too crazy or anything like that. But it's very philosophical. It's very like, it is sci-fi, but again, it's multiple books, right? So that's the other thing, is how do you condense a pretty huge storyline and kind of story arc into a TV series.
Apparently you don't, because you sign a deal for 50 episodes right off the bat.
Exactly. So maybe that's the way to do it, right? Is instead of trying to do it in a 8 episode run or something, right? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see that come out. But I think it seems like Apple's really starting to gain their momentum now on the content side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's interesting, right? Because like Apple TV Plus, like I'm curious how well it will do long term, because it does seem like one of these experiments that is going relatively well, but it's like one of these things where they're taking a pretty different approach to it, right? Where it's like pretty niche and not that many shows, or just a couple. I mean, it could do really well, but it at this point, it does sound like some of their other projects where they've decided to take kind of a different approach and that have failed. But I mean, it seems like all around that, a lot of people agree that the content is really good.
Yeah, it's kind of like quality over quantity approach at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, Ted Lasso won a whole whack of awards. Yeah. I think Morning Show won a whole bunch of awards as well. So a lot of their stuff is doing really well, So, very, very interesting to see where Apple TV Plus ends up, actually.
Yeah.
On the other end of kind of entertainment and, kind of like providing providing entertainment to the masses and stuff like that. On the negative side, I'm going to editorialize here a little bit, this news story. On the negative side, apparently Rogers has successfully acquired Shaw. Right. Which is all I read were all these articles about how this is going to be terrible and this is going to be awful for the consumer, basically.
I feel like that you could say that for anything the Rogers, like they can do anything, and I feel like that kind of applies.
Yeah. So that's happened. The other thing it's weird because I feel like we don't really cover Canadian news. Like I feel like that's not something that we do. Yeah. But I did want to mention that a report came out. I don't know if you saw this report, but a report came out about the COVID app in Canada, and some guy basically again, no research. Some dude who's very official apparently, or has something to do with the numbers and the stats around the COVID app, has basically said that the COVID app unfortunately is useless because of the adoption rate. The adoption rate has been really terrible. Yeah. Under like 5% of people who actually got COVID positive didn't use the app for several reasons, whether they didn't have the app or they didn't enter the code or whatever. Yeah. So that's that's unfortunate. Yeah. I mean, kind of a cool technology play that just didn't work out.
Yeah, and that really relied on, it needs a certain minimum, right, of people to be effective, and which is probably a lot higher than whatever it is right now. Yeah, like probably not even anywhere close. But I think the sadder part is more just around like it was a very small ask, right? Yeah, and basically it kind of just shows the overall sentiment of like, it's such a small ask, and even that people were not willing to kind of do, right? Yeah. So yeah, kind of unfortunate. Not so much about, because who cares about the app itself not really working out? It's more about what it kind of reflects in the general society, I guess. Which is the kind of sadder part, I think.
The interesting thing is like, I think it's like, it's just understanding the reason. Like, I feel like there's just so many reasons why people didn't go for it, right? Yeah. I will say there's one part of me, like when I got the app, there was a part of me that was scared to open it up at times. I was like, shoot, I hope I don't get some kind of like, because like every time you open the app, you're like, oh no, it's okay. Like it's still working, but I don't have it, right? But it's interesting to kind of think about what other people's reasonings were, right? So
and we might never know, right? It's yeah.
Now the interesting stat I did read about it though is that the app costs $435,000 to make.
Okay.
You know, which is I think pretty reasonable.
It's not too bad.
And but so the amount of money they spent on the app though, as a whole, was $16.5 million.
Oh, okay. Where did the other 16 whatever
million go?
Yeah.
Apparently in marketing the app. Which apparently still wasn't enough, you know. Like I guess like the whole education around it and pushing it out and getting people to download it. Yeah. Apparently $435,000 to build the app and $16 million to push it out. So
it's like super unfortunate. This is like the most depressing episode of like the ETC podcast.
Yeah. I mean, again, like you hadn't heard about Sabine's death, and like that's so.
I mean,
sad.
we can continue this if we're talking about terrible things and things being killed off, I guess. So Apple has kind of eliminated a bunch of products. So
I heard about this.
The HomePod, which I think that's not a huge surprise. I was never a HomePod fan. I don't think they quite. They were relying heavily on Siri as a differentiator. And I think you and I both know how well, Siri, I think, works or doesn't work. So that's gone. The HomePod Mini is still around. Yeah, exactly. But the original HomePod, I think is gone, at least for now. And then the one that I'm actually sad about is the iMac Pro. That's right. Is also gone for the moment, which is a bit unfortunate because I think like I think that was one of the coolest kind of outside maybe the XDR display. Because then they got rid of the like really, funky looking cylindrical Mac Pro, right? Yep. They didn't have anything that was sort of like, what is that really kind of like crazy, product that no one would buy, but you can kind of look at it and kind of be like, yeah, that's awesome, right? Yeah. So I don't know if was that the only iMac with the 5K display, or is there also like a non iMac Pro with a 5K display? That's a good question. I think there is a non iMac Pro with a 5K display. Yeah. So I know there's rumors that they're going to be updating the iMacs with new M1 chips or whatever they call it. So I'm sure they're going to be replacing it with stuff. And it's interesting. I wonder too if like basically the performance envelope too is they can't justify a Pro version because the M chips are so good. Right. Yeah, exactly. That they're like, well, like no one's gonna buy the Pro because it's like not any faster than the. It's not worth it. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a combination of that. Like, I mean, they're saying like some tests like the base MacBook Air is beating like not even the iMac Pro but the Mac Pro in certain things. But I think the other reason why it doesn't really make sense to keep it around is I feel like the iMac Pro was a little bit of a stopgap for the Pro market until the Mac Pro was done, because like the Pro community kept complaining that like, oh, the cylindrical Mac kind of sucks, and when the heck are you guys gonna come out with the Mac Pro? And there was such a huge gap. And I remember when the iMac Pro came out, people were actually quite excited, and they're like, oh, finally they're kind of addressing the Pro market a little bit, not as far beyond as the Mac Pro. So I feel like it was a little bit of a stopgap until the Mac Pro came out. But not to mention, obviously, like the Mac Pro is like crazy expensive compared to the iMac Pro, but I think you're right. I think combined with now like the M like these Apple Silicon chips coming out, I feel because there's rumors also right now of a entry level Mac Pro with Apple Silicon, so I feel like that will probably fill the gap of where the iMac Pro was sitting. But you're right. It's kind of cool when it came out, and I feel like a lot of people liked it. Like a lot of people really liked what it had to offer, and it was like apparently a relatively affordable way to get a lot of power out of a Mac. So great display too, right? So I think but again, why would you kind of choose that today over? And I think it's even less money. You can get a Mac Mini, right? An M1 Mac Mini with an XDR display, which is probably still cheaper than an iMac Pro. I don't check the pricing, but so. That's gone, but I guess anticipating a bunch of new iMacs and MacBook Pros later this year. Yeah, it's interesting with the HomePod as well, because like I feel like the HomePod,
I feel like the differentiation also was kind of being based on like the high fidelity audio, you know, like being a really high end, you know, audio device.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like people who are in that market, I feel like don't care that much about high end audio. And to be honest, like, I mean, I like music a lot, and I like when speakers and headphones sound really nice, but I'll make do with a $30 Google Mini. Like it'll be good enough for me to enjoy ambient music, right?
Yeah, and there's other options like in the high end audio, right? I don't think they were the only choice. I mean, Sonos I think is probably the biggest like player in that, right?
Yep.
And so I think a lot of people, it was a very small niche audience, I think, that would actually go for the HomePod. So we'll see what happens. I think like the Mini is interesting, like their kind of idea of it being distributed, you know, multiple of them, right?
Yep.
And there's some really neat stuff too that they had. I think they're coming out with, if not already released, where your phone will know if you're close to a HomePod Mini, and then you can actually just sort of like hand off music to it or hand off like whatever. So that's kind of cool. I think like they're starting to get into more of the like integrating to the rest of your smart home, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is a better use case than just like talking with Siri.
Yeah, I mean that kind of reminds me actually of a point that I wanted to bring up. I think I have it here written down actually somewhere, but I mean it has to do with the whole ecosystem discussion, right? And what's interesting, and it kind of relates to this, kind of doesn't. I kind of just want to bring it up. Is that what I find super, super interesting about the ecosystem play is that I feel like they've won basically. Like the companies have won because I feel like they completely flipped the buying decision mentality. So I used to buy like say headphones or speakers or whatever accessories, and I used to be like, oh, that's just made for Apple devices. I'm not gonna buy that because what if I want to use it with someone else's computer or someone else's thing, you know, or whatever, right? And it's like, oh, Bluetooth headphones. I want to make sure I get something that I can hook up to anything because my TV might not be Apple, whatever, this and that, right? And that's how I used to buy things. It was like, oh, it's got a lightning port connector. Like I need something that can also adapt to someone else's phone, all this stuff like that, right? But now the conversation or the decision is complete opposite. It's like, oh, your accessory is not lightning. I don't want it. I want all my devices to be lightning. You know, it's like, oh, your device doesn't automatically like, you know, like I've heard how good the Sony wireless earbuds are. Oh, sorry, I haven't listened to them, but I like reviews are saying like they're
good
the
reviews,
best. Yeah, right. And I'm like, nah. I mean, I don't want a generic Bluetooth connection. I want something where I open up the device and boom, it's on my iPhone, right?
Yeah, because that's the device you use, and you don't like. There'd be very few use cases where you need to like connect to a non-Apple device.
Yeah, you know, and they've really won that because like it's kind of like you know buying anything and then deciding, oh, I'm only buying first-party accessories for everything that I buy, right? So I feel like with the HomePod or Mini, I could see them inching their way in with that, right? Yeah. Like the only reason I don't buy Apple things like that is Siri. Siri is just that's the big hindrance right now.
Yeah.
You know, so I was super interested when they discontinued the HomePod. Not because it was unexpected, but more that it just seemed to kind of happen out of nowhere. It just all of a sudden, oh, it's discontinued, and then
and again, it was like I had to almost kind of double check to be like, oh, I didn't even realize they were still selling it, right? Because
right.
I doubt that there was very many. The sales were great on that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Before we go to commercial break, I just want to mention one more story that I caught just before we started recording. So do you know who Andrew Huang is? Have you ever seen him or caught him on YouTube?
Probably, but the name is not bringing up.
So he's a Toronto-based YouTuber / music producer. Mm-hmm. So he a lot of his YouTube surrounds like music production. He has a studio and he's like electronic music, digital music, does a lot of tutorials and things like that. Kind of producer in the way that we use kind of the word producer nowadays, kind of like almost like a DJ as well. So does a lot of music stuff. Quite big actually. He's 2.5 million subscribers. I remember when I first started watching his videos, I was like, how is a music producer
Yeah.
getting this many videos? But again, like he's really good. Like he's awesome. He's got a lot of great stuff. Does a lot of cool things. He's actually the kind of guy. He's the guy who actually kind of got me excited about like those teenage engineering instruments, like your kind of beat maker thing or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he dropped a video today, and the title was "One Last Song Before I Leave." I think it is what it was called. And I'm like, oh, okay, classic clickbait, but yeah, whatever, I'll watch it.
Yep.
And so he puts it on, and he says, I think the opening is like, I can't believe this day has come or whatever. I can't believe I'm about to leave. And I don't mean YouTube. I mean this planet. I am going into space, and this is not a joke. And I'm like, what? and so then the rest of his video though is like, oh, but before I go, I'm going to produce a song. So he kind of produces the song. But then towards the end, he starts intercutting with legit space footage. Like he's in, and so it turns. So I went and
wait,
looked
this happened?
This has happened. So
wow.
so I looked this up. And have you heard of this company called Luminautics?
What is it?
Luminautics.
No.
So I guess space is just like a privatized not mass market, but I guess there's all these like privatized space companies popping up now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's like there's a few I have heard of, like Virgin, right? Like Richard Branson's,
right?
You know, has a company that is I forget what their Virgin. It's just a Virgin's
Galactic,
or is that
right?
yeah.
Or is that the name of the ship?
No, I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is kind of promising, you know, private space flight, right? For anyone, if you have enough money. So there's a few, but I haven't heard of this company, especially if they're already sending people. That's kind of crazy.
Well, yeah. So I mean, I really don't follow the space industry.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think they're Canadian too, because they had a Canada flag on their hangar.
Interesting.
Yeah, Luminautics. And so I went to their website, and I like saw that like they had a picture of one of their launches called the Aeon 2 or something like that. And I was like, that looks like the ship in the thing. So I clicked on it, and it's like, yes, Andrew Huang has spent the last 4 years training with us. He's a YouTuber and music producer. Spent the last 4 years training with us. He had some kind of instrumental part in their previous launch or something like that.
Okay.
And so yeah, that's
crazy.
And so I was reading the comments, and it was like, that's the biggest flex ever. I'm like, yeah, totally. Like what other YouTubers?
Does he explain how that happened? And
it's he has not. So I guess the thing is, based on the write up. Luminautics. I guess he had some part again in their previous launch. Like I don't know what that part was. I don't know.
Did he make is this a situation where like, hey, make a video for us, or like wait, he's a producer, right? So make something for us. We'll send you into space. Yeah,
I mean that's the impression I get, right? Like it's probably half his publicity that he can bring to it, right? Because you know, it says through his broadcasts you will witness our leap into the future. So I'm assuming he's going to kind of YouTube this whole thing. Or
I mean, if he has how many, like millions of people watching, right? That's exactly pretty valuable. So
right. Yeah. But it does say here, where is it? He played an instrumental role in our Black Diamond project. So I don't know. I think that was one of their, again, previous launches or something like that.
Okay.
Project Black Diamond. In 2014, no, that's something different. Anyways, so yeah, so pretty crazy.
Wow.
Also, what's interesting is, so what I can't figure out is, so the video dropped today, and it says the mission on March 18th, 2021, Luminautics launched the Aeon 2. So they launched it today.
Wow.
But his video went up today with footage of the launch. So I don't know, like I don't know if he was showing footage of like practice launches or something. I don't know how that editing happened or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, it's just so weird because you're just so used to such like clickbaity stuff.
Yeah.
Like Casey Neistat
I'll have to look into
stuff
this.
is just,
that's
yeah.
I mean, it's great. Like again, this is the insane part. Like again, it's to see where YouTube has gone and what it's become, right? Because I think, you know, I forget when it started, but like, I mean, like basically like you and I have been around long enough to basically when YouTube wasn't a thing, right? And then to where it is now. And it's just insane how, I think the best part of YouTube is the doors it has opened, especially for creatives, right? Like, because again, if you were like 10 years ago or whatever, right? And you know, he was like someone like him, how do you get yourself in that position, right? Like that seems like
seriously.
like this is only because of YouTube, right? Like that he's able to kind of get himself in that position. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I have to imagine like that definitely has a huge part in it. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe he has connections and stuff, but no, I mean, definitely not discounting what you're saying. Like it is crazy, like what that platform has become. But yeah, it was genuinely a shocking thing for something like that. I'm not even an avid follower of his. Like I don't like watch all his stuff. Like I just kind of casually watch his stuff.
It's actually like one of the few instances where it, like what you thought it was, like is like even lower than what the reality is, right?
Exactly. I was like, okay, so is he leaving YouTube and is he faking this out? Is he just like taking a break for a bit or whatever?
Yeah.
But no, he's going to space.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah, Andrew Huang, check out his YouTube channel. All right, we're gonna take a short break, guys. We'll be right back after this. And we are back on this wonderful Thursday, March 18th, 2021. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, be sure to email us at podcast.etc@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter @the ETC Podcast. Now, I want to give a advertisement for the big episode that's coming up. We have never been asked to do a themed episode in the 61 episodes that the ETC Podcast has been around. Is it because we're stubborn or that we don't have enough fans? I don't know. You figure it out. But next week, we are doing a fan-requested episode from our good friend Deanna, who has done a lot to educate us on environmentalism and a lot of the good practices around that. But I don't want to discount our good co-host here, Aaron, who has also done a lot of research on environmentalism. I feel like you've kind of taken a recent passion in the last couple of years. You've kind of upped your kind of research and kind of looking into that. But next Thursday, March 25th, 2021, we are doing the big ETC podcast. That is the environmental ETC podcast. Aaron, do you have anything to say about this monumental episode?
Well, I was going to ask if we have any, correspondence. Like what's, what are people requesting?
Right. We do, I think. I have my phone.
Or this is more of a shout out that people should, you should, if you're listening to this, any and all questions, let us know what you're, burning to know answers to. And, I mean, we have one, I won't reveal yet. We had one request from Dave, which you and I feel have no information at all, prior knowledge.
Okay, do we? Because I couldn't remember. Yeah, he did say he did mention something, right?
Yeah, but that's fine because I think you and I are good. With the Googling and whatnot, that's something we can do. So yeah, right in. I think that's pretty much all to say at this point. But looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun.
Deanna has submitted something as well.
Yes,
she has submitted something for us to look up. So that's definitely something we'll look up. But all self-deprecation and joking aside, we do hope it is informative. There are things I think that surrounding the environmental movement and proactive things that we can do that definitely surround the entertainment technology and cars realm.
Yep.
And there are definitely things that I think what we can do to the small kind of fandom that we have, I think it's good. I mean, we spread the love, we spread the word, we spread the education, and I myself am intrigued as to what I'm going to learn because I think Aaron, I know you've done some research, in the past couple of years and taken a passion for it. We haven't really talked about it that much. I mean, it's not like you come to my place and say, hey, Casey.
And I think that's like maybe, like I feel one thing we can say about our very limited, expertise in some of this stuff is, maybe we can give that kind of perspective because I feel like maybe we're more in the majority, right? Than people that know a lot about this stuff, right? And so I've learned a bit, but I'm by no means an expert. I think if you and I kind of discuss it like, like any normal person. And I can also kind of share a little bit about how, I didn't know anything about some of this stuff and how I kind of learned stuff. Because I think that's like a lot of this stuff is you just got to know what, how to go figure out, what you're interested in and learn some of that stuff. And even if, we have limited answers on these things, we can maybe at least talk about it from the perspective of like, how do you learn about this stuff, right? And where do you go find this stuff? So yeah,
definitely. So keep your ears peeled, keep your podcast subscribed, keep your YouTube smashed and your Twitters up and running. March 25th, 2021, the big ETC podcast episode. That's the official name, by the way. Now it's the big E.
Big E.
You have to pronounce it like that. Big E ETC podcast episode dropping into your earpods, your AirPods Max, and your Google Buds. It's all coming down next Thursday, 2021. But that is not today. Today is March 18th, 2021. And we would like to know what is on Aaron's noggin.
I mean, I think this is just continuing. I was going to drop some news earlier, but there's some interesting, there's two things that maybe are kind of related that I'll give some commentary on, but curious if you've seen it and have any thoughts. So two things. One, and some more Apple news. The iPad Pro apparently is getting an update, but that's not the main thing I want to talk about. Have you seen this new Intel ad with Justin?
Okay, so hold on. Let's rewind a bit. So the first thing about the iPad Pro, I do want to mention one thing about that.
Yeah,
I think someday me and you should start a Twitter account.
Yeah,
called like something along the lines of like Apple speculation, or I mean, we can't call it Mac rumors or whatever, because like it's like
I was gonna say, isn't there a whole site dedicated to that?
Yeah. But we'll come up with something like Apple predictions or something like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, just randomly like program it so that randomly in the year, it's like we anticipate new iPad Pros are going to come out. We anticipate new Macs.
So wait, not even you and I, like we're not writing these things. It's just a bot that is like
just a bot that
putting together whatever and whatever.
Yeah. Because I feel like that's like it'll be just as accurate.
Well, I think the more surprising thing, this is kind of getting off on a tangent a bit, but the more surprising thing are some things that haven't been updated, which seem crazy. So the Apple TV, which I mean like basically I want to get an Apple TV, like a new one. And I was like, cool, I'm going to wait because it almost doesn't sound, this doesn't sound real. I had to double check when I read this that I was looking at the right product. But the latest Apple TV, which is the Apple TV, I think they just called the 4K.
4K, yeah.
Was released in September 2017.
Okay, yeah.
And when I read that, I'm like, that doesn't sound real. Like nothing is, no one has anything that old, like, right? But apparently that's when it was updated, and they still, there's zero plans. Like, I haven't heard anything about a new Apple TV. So.
Well, it's so funny because the other day I did read one rumor about a potential new Apple TV.
Okay.
And I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, I forgot.
So to riff on your idea, I feel like something that would be even more popular and unique is an account that predicts what will not be released, right?
I feel like that would actually bring real value. Whereas what I'm saying is like, I feel like people are like, oh yeah, an analyst said that an iPad Pro is going to come out. Of course an iPad Pro is going to come out.
Exactly. They're all saying that, right? But if you're like, yeah, well, there's not going to be a new iPhone. Bam.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And imagine you're right about that.
Yeah.
Right? Because everyone else is saying the other thing, right? So anyways, look out for that world-changing Twitter account. So yeah,
Justin Long.
You've seen this, right? Like you've seen these, I think there's 1 or 2 videos released by Intel.
I haven't actually seen the ads. I just saw the story that the headline was out of desperation. Intel is using Justin Long in their commercials now. Can you FDK for the audience why this is significant?
Yeah, I guess I have to provide a little bit of history for this to make sense. I don't know if it will make sense even after this, but so Apple, I don't know, do you know how long ago that was? Like that was during their like Mac versus PC campaign, right?
Yeah, it must have been
years ago. Like
I want to say mid 2000s, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. So Apple had this, ad campaign that basically had these two actors, and one actor basically personified PC, and another actor personified a Mac computer. And the whole point was like they portrayed the PC guy as super lame and not cool, and they portrayed the Mac guy as like super down to earth and cool and whatnot. But anyways, that actor Justin Long, who like I can't even I don't know what movies he's been in, but he's definitely an actor, right? Like
he was in Live Free or Die Hard.
Yeah,
That's right. Accepted. He was in a Steve Jobs
some comedy
movie, actually.
Was that?
He was in, I believe, a Steve Jobs movie, but that was only Funny or Die or whatever. But yeah, he's a legit actor.
Right. Yeah. So he's an actor. So I guess Intel essentially has done an ad. They just released today, I think, where he is playing like himself. So it's like, it's like, hi, I'm Justin, right? So it's like kind of like they're basically hinting at the previous Apple ads, which I get. It's sort of like I don't know how big that audience is, because that was quite a while ago, and I feel like nowadays if you survey people, like I don't know if everyone would have even seen those ads, right?
Yeah, right.
But anyways, like that they're kind of basically playing on that, and then it was kind of strange because it took me a while to realize that it was an Intel ad, but I think they were advertising this laptop, and I think the laptop was actually an Asus or something. Like it wasn't, because Intel doesn't make their own full hardware, right?
Right.
And so it was an ad that was basically promoting, a computer, like a laptop, and I think it was an Asus. I don't know what the pronunciation of that is. One of those, but so yeah. Anyways, it was him, and basically kind of like, hey, this is an Intel PC or an Intel laptop, right? And then they had a MacBook as well alongside, and they were basically trying to show that. So that it's a pretty cool new laptop, and it's like a touchscreen. It was kind of like those new convertible laptops that like can be like sort of a pseudo iPad, right?
Yeah.
And then it also has a giant. They made fun of the touch bar, which to be fair is probably deserved because like I don't think anyone really is a huge fan of the touch bar. I don't know if you are, but.
I kind of like it because I'm new to it. Like
it's kind of harmless, I guess, but it's not like it's not a killer feature. I don't think
for sure.
So he's making fun of it because this new Asus laptop has this massive. It's basically almost like a secondary screen.
Oh, okay.
That takes up like a good part of the bottom part. Of the laptop. So interesting device. I don't think that like whatever. That's cool. Like I don't think anyone has ever denied like this is pretty cool. Like Microsoft makes some pretty cool hardware as well, right? Yep. There's some pretty cool devices out there, but it was just really bizarre because it's almost like these types of ads, I feel could, for if the person, like people, the company making, like Intel in this case, I feel maybe is counterproductive because it's almost like I think if people watch this, it doesn't really make them necessarily want to buy the laptop anymore, but it does make it very obvious that like, again, because they're basically parodying an Apple thing, it's very defensive, right? It's very like, why are you making this unless you feel super threatened? And it's even more awkward because again, Intel is one step removed from Apple. Like they don't make these laptops, right? So it's like it's very strange, and they got the same actor, like so. Yeah, it was just hilarious, kind of all around, just to see, but entertaining. But yeah, that was
I don't know if we need to set the stage a little bit, FDK. There, I mean. Obviously the reason for this is Apple is starting to push out Intel from their own laptops, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah,
which is super awkward because you can still, I think there's officially still a partnership, right? Like, I think you can still buy an Intel. So that's the other thing is like, what is Intel doing here? Because it's not like it's clear that, it's an M1 Mac, right? Like that could be an Intel Mac, right? Like, so the whole thing is just really funny.
It's a very good point. It's not like specifically they're saying that's the M1 Mac. Yeah. It's like this Asus Intel is better.
You just get more questions. It's like, did Intel buy Asus? Like what is going? There's like so many questions that emerge from this. That
it's
really
so funny. It's not really the same, but for some reason it brings up a memory of. Do you remember when BlackBerry did that really awkward video with their like executive team? Like they were in a band and they're like playing like the bass and stuff.
Yeah.
Really awkward commercial that was like everyone was just like, what are these guys doing? Like it's
because I think these types of commercials, like you can only do it if you're actually cool. And if you're not, it's like it's worse than it's like doing an uncool commercial, right? Is better than trying to do a cool commercial and ends up being uncool, miserably. Right? So,
yeah, no, totally. And you know, it's funny too because like it is very risky because like I'm the biggest Apple fanboy there is, and I didn't like those Mac versus PC commercials. Like they're almost they didn't offend me, but they almost offended me. Like it's like I don't like being portrayed as a snooty like Mac user, as someone who's going to be like, oh, I own a Mac.
That's true. It was like a part of it is kind of making fun of like, hey, if you're not this or that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right. And I'm like, you know, I'm not that way. Like I like to embrace PC users and all this stuff like that, right? It's So it's I mean, already is a risky move in general, but you're right. Like Apple executed it well, and I'm sure a lot of other, you know, Apple fans were huge supporters of that commercial and they loved it. And like,
I mean, it was original. Even if you didn't, again, regardless of if you liked it or not, I think it was original, right? And so I think that's the thing is like it's again, Intel's maybe misstep here is if something is only really from an advertising perspective effective because it's original, then copying it, right? If you have no other, like again, it's sort of like if they just want to showcase the product, they could have done a much better job just having an ad that's purely focused on this Asus like product, right? But now you're distracted because you're like, why is there a Mac in there? And then you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like you can't even focus on the thing you're trying to sell.
Well, I'm just trying to think in my head. And I was like, oh yeah, what Intel like what other Intel? Because I can only think of like Dell commercials or something like that, right? But do you remember? Like actually, Intel did have a really good ad campaign at one point. Remember? It was all those guys dressed in the suits. Yeah, like doing the silicon stuff.
Didn't they have the blue group, the blue men at some point too? Was that?
Was it? Okay. Yeah, maybe.
There's a big like again. I think the heyday of Intel, right? I mean, here's the thing too. Maybe this is why you saw the headline of this feeling desperate too. Is I think they've kind of lost that sort of brand edge, right? Because again, if you go back 15, 20 years, right, in the days of when PCs were people built PCs and when gaming first started coming in, like the whole Intel Inside like campaign that was pretty. That was pretty good, right? And I think that was kind of the heyday of their brand. So
yeah, no, it's fine. I'm curious now to actually see the commercial and see what it's. I feel like though after all the hype now, it's just gonna be whatever. It's a normal commercial, whatever, no big deal.
Yeah, I mean it's give it a watch. I think there's at least 2 of them. There's like a series of little like quick videos, but very interesting times. I think again entertaining. It's definitely I think they've from a publicity or getting people to watch it perspective, it's probably effective. Whether it's actually going to sell stuff, because again, what is it actually trying to sell, right? Because like, are you trying to like sell the Asus, that very specific Asus computer? In which case, like, there's many more laptops out there. So
I love in this last 5-10 minutes how many times like what Asus, like what the hell's going on here? So. May 2006 apparently is when that campaign launched, and that was my introduction to Justin Long. Actually, I think he had been in other stuff that people knew. Like I remember talking about it, and people were like, "Oh no, people like I know Justin Long, whatever." But that was definitely my introduction to Justin Long. The other guy, Steve Hodgins, I think is his name or something like that. The guy who played PC. They brought him back at one point, right? Apple.
So this is the other ridiculous part of this because. Yes, actually, Apple, and was this just the last event, or it was one of the last few events?
One of the WWDCs, right, or something like that, or one of the keynotes or something.
They did bring him back, and I forget exactly what the ad was or what not, but they brought him back. So again, this is Intel, like, very just like uncool, right? It's basically like not only are they bringing back something from 2006, right?
Yeah, Apple had already brought this back.
Apple just did they just did that, right? So it's I don't know. I think it's again nothing against this actual product that they showed, this Asus I don't know what it's called, laptop, really cool. But I watched both those things. I could not tell you even the name of that thing, or what it if I wanted to buy it, right? Like. I'm not going to, I'm assuming if you go to Intel.com, I'm not going to be able to buy an Asus laptop on Intel.com, right?
Right.
So then it's sort of like, where am I looking for this? I'm gonna like go to like the internet and try to search for it. So not effective from a standpoint of like, even if I really wanted that, how am I going to buy it, right?
Yep.
So again, all sorts of like entertaining things from that, but
and then it's like even if you buy that Asus laptop, what is Asus's market share of Intel products? Is it like 5% or something? Like, you know, so.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
You think they would showcase like 30 different laptops that all Intel powers all. Like one of the most amazing things I find about like something like Java. Like I don't know if you ever like, I always see these ads in airports for some reason. And no, I'm an idiot. No, it's not airports. It's when you literally install Java. When you install Java, it's like we power 3 million or like 3 billion devices or something like that. And it's true because so many things use Java, right? And the same could be said about Intel. Like Intel's power is that it's like everywhere. It's like Windows. Windows is installed on like 90% of the world's machines or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's like I feel like that's their big selling point. Not one piece of hardware.
But I mean, it just goes to show you that they must feel enough threat at this point, right? Like obviously, Apple at some point used to be not again a partner and still is, but I guess their market share is growing enough that now Intel's like, oh, this is a threat, right? Like, so yeah.
Totally. So, all right, it's time for our next regular weekly segment. Do your thing.
Nice.
Yeah. So Brody has left us a do your thing, and I'm curious about. So at the ETC podcast, do your thing. This was 8 hours ago, so very timely.
Nice.
Well, sorry, his tweet is 8 hours ago. Whether or not the story is timely is another thing. This is a retweet from Fandom. So it says, back in 2019, Zack Snyder told doubters the Snyder Cut was real. Fast forward to 2021, and Snyder Cut nods back. It's real. So FDK.
Yeah, I had a note more or less about talking about it, but I actually wanted to ask you,
yes.
What is this exactly? Because I have heard about it. Maybe you know more details than I do.
Yes, I probably know about 10% more than you do, and this is one of the rare entertainment pieces of news that I actually don't know. Like I'm not super confident in what I'm about to say, but here's what I know. So FDK, including myself. Okay, so Justice League, everybody knows, DC movie, big deal. Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman, Aquaman, all coming together to fight Doomsday, maybe? I can't remember. Anyways, mediocre DC movie, right? In the era of mediocre DC movies. And a lot of mediocre DC movies are tied to Zack Snyder. So I believe what happened, and I could be wrong about this, I think Zack Snyder worked on the movie, and I think at some point he basically got fired or like
he was not the director originally.
Yeah, I think he was the original. Zack Snyder was the original director, I believe, and then was fired, and then Joss Whedon took over. So I believe Joss Whedon, I think he even shot some stuff that wasn't in Snyder's original vision or whatever, and then either that or Joss Whedon took over editing and just kind of worked with what was there. Okay, so Snyder Cut comes out. Snyder talked about Snyder Cut, and I guess the Snyder Cut has entirely. So okay, here's the other thing that's a little bit weird about this. I think when the Snyder Cut came back, I don't think it was just his original footage. I think they actually gave him some budget and money to shoot new stuff.
Oh, interesting.
For this Snyder Cut.
Interesting.
So it's not just like a classic director's cut. I think there's actually new footage and new things that are coming in. So theoretically, it's a pretty new movie. And from what I can tell, it's like it's getting quite good reviews. And I'm trying to read some of these retweets and stuff in here, and not really fully understanding.
I mean, the only other thing I heard is, and maybe this, I don't know if this is true, what to verify, but it's 4 hours long. Did you read that?
Oh, is it that long? Actually, I think I did hear that.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, what is going on here? Because like I don't think the original movie, it was maybe 2.5 hours or something. Like I don't know, right? It wasn't. I don't remember it being 3+ hours. And so like that's what I was wondering was like, where did like this seems weird because there's no way they would have just double the amount of like already recorded cut footage, right? That seems
unless
strange.
they just included all the bloopers, included all the takes.
It's just like super like it's just like what's happening here? They're just like
it's
they're
terrible,
just
but it's 4 hours long.
No, but that would make sense if they basically added more like new shooting, right?
I think I read that somewhere where it actually features new footage or something like that.
Okay.
That he, I don't know if they're just digital or if it's actually.
So they would have to get
stuff.
is this actually shot with like new footage with actors because they have to bring them back? That's crazy.
This is where my knowledge starts.
This is where we're doing our thing. Like you ask for it. This is what you get.
Exactly. Now I get so some layers are peeling back here as I'm digging into this tweet within a tweet within a tweet. Because I guess the deal is so this tweet features a side by side of the original tweet and the new tweet. So the original tweet was that it's a picture of a bunch of film reels and it says like Justice League Zack Snyder director's cut. Is it real? Does it exist? Of course not. And that was in 2019 that Zack Snyder had posted. But I guess this is a timely thing because March 18th, 2021, today, it's streaming now. So I guess it was released today. Does that make sense? I feel like it was released a little while ago.
No, I mean, like this, it's only today that I saw something about it briefly.
Okay, so it must have been just released today. It must have been,
there was rumors leading up to it that it was happening because how do you, especially if you have to reshoot stuff?
There's been trailers for the last couple weeks and reviews have been popping up. So I guess the reviewers just had early copies of it or something like that.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like I'm assuming they want to promote it. So it is streaming. Where can we watch?
HBO Max.
Cut? Okay.
HBO Max. So in other words, we can't. Well, I guess we can do it through Crave.
Is that still through Crave? Or
I think in Canada it's still through Crave actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So Justice League, Zack Snyder cut. As much as I like to make fun of Zack Snyder, and as much as I say that I hate Zack Snyder, the reality is I don't, because the only movies I've ever seen of Zack Snyder's I've actually really liked. Like I really liked 300. I liked Watchmen. Oh wait, no, that's not true. I did see Batman versus Superman, and I actually really did not like that movie.
Have you? But okay, is it? I wonder how much of this is a like source content thing with it being in the DC universe versus him, and what he does, because
that's fair.
Know what I mean? I think there's a lot of limitations there in terms of it's hard to say because who has made a really great DC movie, right? There's been some good ones. I don't know
Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Outside of Nolan, yeah. Outside of Nolan, which again, but it's not in the it's not in the whatever they call it, the they just call it the cinematic, Marvel has the
I don't know,
MCU.
Yeah.
So and DC has the similar, I forget what it's called.
Yeah. So, but to be fair, I really liked Wonder Woman, and despite some colleagues I've talked to who absolutely vehemently disagree with me, I loved Wonder Woman 1984. I actually thought Wonder Woman 1984, in my opinion, actually legitimately was one of the best comic book movies I've seen.
I haven't seen the second one, but I would from the DC movies I have seen, forgetting the Nolan stuff. Yes. I would put Wonder Woman, the first one, definitely.
For sure.
At the top.
Yeah.
But even then, how do you rank that against the best Marvel stuff?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Forget it.
So I think it's tricky, right? So it's I don't think again, I'm not sure why people then all of a sudden think, oh, Zack Snyder is going to save the day, and then Justice League is going to be 10 times better. But that seems to be why this got made, right? Because again,
but here's the weird thing. But here's the weird thing though, because it's exact opposite as to why DC's been failing, right? Because Batman versus Superman was maybe one of the Suicide Squad, which was supposed to be awesome, but Zack Snyder directed it and it failed pretty miserably, right? So Zack Snyder was directing a lot of the movies that were failing and doing pretty bad. So I do think it was weird when it was the Zack Snyder cuts coming out, but doesn't everybody hate Zack Snyder? I thought he ruined a lot of
So all I can think of is maybe there's a lot of hope on Justice League, right? And fans were really disappointed, and they're anything, just give us anything, right? Like do this, redo this if you can. So, I mean, I'm interested to watch it again. Like they're entertaining enough movies, you know, like again, you know, don't go in with super high expectations, but like, you know, some of them are you know, I think I did not enjoy, but I think a lot of them were, again, in terms of that genre movie, right? Like, you know, as long as you set your expectations, I thought like, they were okay. Like,
I think my issue was Batman vs Superman, which, to be fair, again, the only one I've really watched in, again, DCU or whatever it's called. I didn't, nothing in it, I was like cringing. I was like, oh my God, that's so terrible. That's stupid. And like, you know, there are things in like some of my beloved movies that I do that, right? Like they're like, you know, like Matrix Reloaded. I hate when Link, like when, I can't remember, I think it's the end of the, what's the highway scene called? It's just literally called the highway scene. You know, the highway scene?
Yeah. With the ghost, you know, the ghost twins guys, the twins,
exactly. And then, you know, at the end, like there's a big truck crash and Neo grabs the two guys and spins out, and then Link at that point, remember Link, the
oh yeah, cuts back to
and he's like yes, you know, I'm like, that is so cringy. I like, just don't do that. I'll tell you the exact opposite version of that is when Christopher Nolan, basically end of Batman Begins, the train goes railing off or whatever, and then it comes to a stop, and the subway operator, this is what he does. He's like looking at it, I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna be crazy. And he doesn't go, yes. What he does is he goes, and that's it. He just sits down and exhales and like, yes, that's how you do it. So even with some of my favorite movies, there's cringeworthy moments. You know, I like Matrix Reloaded, cringe. Batman vs Superman, I never cringed, but I definitely was really bored. Like
there's stretches where it's just like, where is this kind of going, right? Like,
And to be fair, I did watch it on a plane, so you know, there's a lot of factors I'm sure lost when you watch it on a 2-inch screen. So all right.
Yeah, well, we'll watch it. That's we did our thing, I guess, on that.
We did do our thing. Thanks, Brody. If you guys want us to do our thing, tweet at us at the ETC Podcast, hashtag do your thing, and we will talk about your thing. All right, we are coming to a close here on episode 61 of the ETC Podcast, your one-stop pod for entertainment, technology, and cars. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, be sure to email us at podcast.etc@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter at the ETC Podcast. The ETC Podcast is currently hosted on Anchor.fm and is distributed to all your favorite platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, and more. Be sure to leave a voice message on our official website, anchor.fm/the-ETC podcast. Sorry, the-ETC, the-podcast. I was doing so well. Oh well, whatever.
That'll be the reason that someone doesn't find us, I'm sure, this week.
Yeah, exactly. Be sure to set all your dials to the podcast frequency next week, because our big ETC podcast episode is dropping next week. That's right, our environmental episode of the ETC podcast is dropping next week. That is Thursday, March 25th, 2021. But as for now, that is it for episode 61 of the ETC podcast, your one-stop pod for entertainment, technology, and cars, and all things random. My name is Casey Lee, and sitting across the city from me, as always, is
Aaron Zack.
We'll see you guys next week.
Zack Snyder.